Hello, I'm Cecilia Louie of Paper Zen. For me, the letter O is the hardest letter of the alphabet. There are no corners or straight sides to hide the join. For this project, I'm using Canson Miton paper and Lean's original tacky glue for the quilling. I've chosen a complementary sheet of scrapbook cardstock that I've cut from 12 by 12 inches down to 12 by 6, and then I've scored it here to fold it down to 6 by 6. Then I've taken another neutral ivory cardstock and cut that down from a sheet of 8.5 by 11 down to just 5.5 by 5.5. This way there's very little wastage, and I've got two cards ready in case I happen to screw one up, or then I can just have it in stock for another card in the future. As usual, we're going to start by softening the strip and follow the template as closely as possible. So I've just softened the strip once here, and obviously I have more to go. When you look at the letter O, you can see the areas here on the ends are more curved than these areas, just a little bit. And so I'm going to make my join here rather than here, because if you can imagine, it'll be easier to come to a close here. You're not having to force the strip to sort of curve more acutely here. I hope that makes sense. So obviously I'm going to position my strip, and you can make the join either on this side or on the other side. It really doesn't matter, right? But obviously I need to put some more curve to this. So as usual, I'm going to just keep softening in the areas where I want more curve to be. And obviously that's too much, so I just kind of analyze that, and just with your fingers you can actually make the pulp relax easily, almost too easily, right? So I guess I'm kind of coming close, so I'm just studying the corner here and see, okay, I need to make that relax a little bit more. Some of you have commented that I make this look easy. I usually fast forward parts like this because I don't want to bore you, but this time I'm leaving it in real time so you can see that I don't achieve this in 2 seconds. I want you to understand it does take time, and I've been doing this for over 10 years, so my fingers know how to feel the paper. So please just be patient with yourself, don't be negative with your work, and try to view your time with paper as simply playing. I'm also just learning how to play tennis, so believe me when I say I know how you feel. It's frustrating, I feel slow, but I try to focus on how fun it is and see that I'm improving. As long as you're improving, you know you're headed in the right direction. So we're getting kind of close. I think that's pretty much there. So I've mentioned before in the past to kiss the glue, and what I mean by that is kind of like a butterfly kiss. So in other words, really, really light. You can see I've put very little glue here, and my cuts here are very, very straight. This is the one time you must be very, very careful with your cutting. You want to have 90-degree blunt cuts here. And I'm going to just gently press this edge against the glue. And I call this butterfly kiss because there's just so little glue there. Now I'm going to use the edge of my card here and just hold it with the bottom part of my thumb and bring these two edges together. This is similar to how whenever I talk about using the table surface to align your edges, this is the same idea, but we're just doing it at 90 degrees now. There's your join. Now, this join is still fresh, so I don't want to be disturbing it, but you still have, you know, plenty of opportunity to keep adjusting this if you need. So when I'm looking at this shape, I see how this part is pretty much there. This part is not quite behaving. So I'm going to grab the paper right there and give this part just a bit more curl. You see how that's more behaving now? So at this point, it's fairly on track, and I just want to make this join happen about now, because then I can adjust that join better. It's harder to, you know, make them align when they're not, you know, together. And just so that you understand, the reason why you want to do butterfly kiss, I'm going to put down a bit more glue and try to explain to you the difference between kisses. So this is the butterfly kiss. There's just very little glue. And you know, this is more like French kissing, where we're going to use a bit of tongue here. And okay, I'm exaggerating, but you see there's a bit more just coating all around. And that's great too. I don't mind that on a join like this, but I might just end up smearing some excess off. And then you definitely don't want to go in for a big wet puppy dog slobbery kiss like that. That kind of dollop of glue is only going to give you excess to definitely see in your final pieces. So generally, to have a clean piece of work, we definitely want more like a butterfly kiss. And that's why I find putting it on edge like that just gives me so much more control in how much glue I use. Yeah, that's not too shabby. As with any letter in the alphabet so far, I've always suggested to tackle the inside part of the letter first, and the O is certainly no exception. So I'll be using my transport card from Singapore because it's a lot thinner than a typical plastic card, so it's going to be easy to put it underneath the letter when I'm gluing. The inside shape of the letter O is pretty small, and when I match it up to my template, it's pretty much aligned to the template, so I feel very confident in dipping it and gluing it all at one go. So after I've dipped it in glue, when I apply it to my card, I'm going to press one side down first while keeping the other side up in the air. This way it gives me time. I'm not applying the letter all at one time in one motion. So I'm dipping one side first, then the other. The outside part of the letter O is larger and therefore it can tend to move a little bit. So I'm going to start gluing this piecemeal, starting with the join. So there's no glue here, so it's very safe for me to push this part down against my surface and to just sort of visually align exactly where I want that first bit to go down. Now the glue on my card is not towards the edge, so I'm just going to put down some more glue and make sure it does reach the edge. So you see, putting the glue towards the edge allows me to put it exactly underneath the strip where I need it to go. So just work your way around. Little bit by little bit, and then you can see it's not so scary this way, right? You have time to adjust and check and change. There's your letter O. If you've been quilling letters, you may have noticed some letters dip below the baseline and above the cap height. In this example, you can see the letter O, Q, S, and U have round sides, and that's why they have to extend beyond the cap height and beyond the baseline so that they give the illusion that they are matching the rest of the letters. That's why it was important for me to include the baseline for every letter in my book, Quilling Letters, so that you can keep all the letters looking the way they should in a name or phrase. Since the letter O is such a circular shape, I've decided to decorate it with a wreath pattern. To make a leaf branch, that's this guy here, the main stem, we're going to soften this entire strip. And I'm using a crochet hook here because I like how the metal is so smooth and the way it drags against my paper like that. It's not as skinny of a circumference as it is with my needle tool. So I just like that kind of softened arc like that. So I'm going to just visualize the size of leaf that I want. You can have a small leaf, a large leaf. It's actually great to vary it. So I'm going to use my quilling needle to rub the leaf into shape. And then where it meets up with itself, I'm just going to give it a little bend right there. And just give it a kiss of glue. And then I'm going to glue it to itself. And remember, use your finger and thumb to make sure these edges are the same. And then you just basically decide how long of a branch you would like and cut it where you need. I mean, it's a subtle thing to add that fold there, but I just find that it just tends to loop back on itself nicely rather than like having this part and this part flow, to me this looks more like a leaf that's growing out of the branch. And then from there, to just add this simple open teardrop shape, it's pretty much similar to making that shape really. And you know, if you decide like this leaf is too skinny, I'd like it to be a little wider, just, you know, kind of push on it like that, and instantly it's just a fattened up leaf. So I'm going to just add a teardrop shape to that, and I've got a little boo-boo here, so I'm going to be using my other finger to roll on, but it's the same idea really as that, right? So I just in this case I would tend to use new glue because I'm taking too long between gluing, and I don't want to use any skin that's developed on the glue. And sometimes if you're, you know, rushing or what have you, you need to have it be held here. If you want, you can actually use your tweezer and get it to hold it for you in place, kind of like that. Then you can do something else and then come back and, oh, look at that, it's set. So then after you've created your extra leaf, you could decide, do you want it on this side or on that side, and just dip it into some glue. Again, we need some new glue. It's just too small of a bead of glue for it to not dry out so quickly. And in this case, do you see how I'm using the table surface again to keep all my elements flat? And it is a tenuous join here, but it's just for, I guess, until you go to glue it to your card, and then it'll be more secure. Now, to create this little bud here, I'm going to, I see I've not cut it exactly at 90, so I'm just going to trim off some excess. And so now it does come with some playing around, like you can measure it for yourself and decide, you know, do you want to keep a formula of different leaf sizes, that kind of thing. But basically just, you know, I guess this is about 1/2 inch or so. And so what I'm going to do is I folded it in half, and I'm going to rub on this half. It gets a little small, so sometimes the strip kind of comes alive. And that's how you form the bud. So I'm just going to add some glue right here in the middle. And because you formed it, now that bud is going to easily take shape. We just have to hold it a little bit till it sets. It's quite cute, right? It's like a little heart. And then decide from there, how long do you want the bud to have a branch with? So in this case, I'd like to have it be a little longer. So again, a new bead of glue and a butterfly kiss. And again, I'm going to use my table surface to help align. So you can decide, you know, do you want it like that? Do you want to turn it like this? Completely up to you. You can change it up on whichever side you want. And again, a butterfly kiss. And there you go. So because these joins are so small, you can actually, even when it's dry, you can actually still manipulate it a little bit here and there. When you go to glue on your actual card, you can just kind of bend it a little bit into shape. It is somewhat flexible in that way. So it's not like written in stone. It is still very fragile, but it's a lot easier to pick up a whole piece like this and position it. You know, do I want to turn it? Do I want to put it on this side? It's just easier to pick up the whole piece like that. To make the berries, I'm going to soften the entire strip again and tear the end. And if you don't, if you're not comfortable with tearing it with your fingers, you can always use the edge of your ruler. Just put it on here and just use that to tear with, and then you've got a torn edge like that. Using a torn edge, it just makes the ends less noticeable. So I'm going to use a toothpick and wrap this strip around it. So generally I've found that about 3/4 of an inch is what I need. So I'm just going to put it on my ruler and put my thumb at the end and just tear it like that. And then I'm going to press the toothpick into my finger, and with the friction that you feel with rubbing dry glue off your finger, you're just going to ravel that around the toothpick and try to make sure the ends are aligned. And just put a small bead of glue down. And then you just slide it off. There's your berry. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll give it 2 thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you'll be notified of new videos. I love reading your responses because I never thought so many would enjoy hearing my inside thoughts. So thank you. Your comments are keeping me going.